What went wrong for Colorado in this bowl game?
Yeah, TJ, to shoot you straight, it was domination. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. BYU made Colorado look like a scared football team, and I'm not sure if anybody else has done that this season. You could see it in the way that Shedeur played. You could see it in the way the receivers were hesitant to catch a pass or to meet a defender. BYU was just a much more physical team. Now, the first thing I want to emphasize with this is you will hear ad nauseum from social media, from national pundits, that Deion's done, and without Travis Hunter and Deion Sanders, he can't win there. Even if he does stay, and he'll go to the NFL, and this is the end of his era at Colorado. All of that is complete hot air. All of that has no worth, carries no worth. 9 wins for a Colorado team that could have won 3 or 4 games, and no one would have been surprised from the national perspective. This was a massive season for Deion Sanders, a massive season for the Buffs, a massive season for Boulder, Colorado, and the economic impact the program had on an entire city, and that's spreading across the state. This should not be looked at as a Colorado loss that takes them out of further Big 12 contention in seasons coming up, but instead should be, shoot, we got our butt kicked. Doesn't mean it's the end of the world, and Colorado can rally, pick themselves up, and have a good 2025. And that's kind of what Deion said at the podium as well, is we got our butt kicked, now let's rally.
Yeah, it's too often, and especially when it's the last game of the year, especially in college. It's different in the pros. It's different in other sports. When it's the last game of the year, so much is made about the final game, right? And we put sometimes too much emphasis on the results of a final game. Good and bad. And so, yeah, not trying to play so much of the moral victory game here for Colorado, but it's really not. They wanted to win, right? And Deion wanted to win this game. Coach Prime wanted. There's a reason Shedeur played. There's a reason Hunter played. And we'll talk about those guys in a minute. But it's really not the end of the world. It is a bowl game. It is, at the end of the day, a glorified exhibition. And to not play that moral victory game is important because they competed for a reason. But this has no bearing on the success, the turnaround, the story, and more importantly than all of those combined, the future at Colorado, like you just said. They obviously showed some weaknesses in this game, and they obviously have a ton of things that need to go right for them. The offensive line needs to continue to improve. They're replacing 2 top 5 picks. There are a lot of things. They're not replacing an O-line coach as of today. There are a lot of things that need to improve and fix and get going back in the right direction. But I don't think that even a blowout loss to BYU, a really good freaking team, is enough to sound the alarm bells in a bowl game.
No, it can't be. And think about this. Is there any recruit in the country where you could go to him and say, hey, do you not want to go to Colorado now because they lost to BYU in this bowl game? The answer is no. There's not a 4-star who's saying, I don't want to play for Deion now. I don't believe anymore. My NIL is not going to be as good. No, this is a game, a one-off where, yeah, you lost, and Jake Retzlaff and BYU called it the quasi-People's Big 12 Championship. And the fact that the score ended up the way that it did doesn't indict Colorado as a program that's got to reset anything, or they're not set back by weeks or months or years because of this loss to BYU. They lost to a better football team. And BYU probably wins this game 7 or 8 times out of 10. And based on the way that it was performed on Saturday night, you can't really argue that. So I have full faith in Deion Sanders. I think everybody else should too. And the problem is, TJ, you and I talked off the air beforehand about the hate that Deion Sanders is getting because of this game, because of the last couple of seasons. This is the one tweet that you and I were talking about too, from Oregon Homer. Of course, it's from Oregon Homer, who mentions 1-8 in Pac-12 play, 0 career ranked wins, 13-12 career record. Cheating accusations, just cherry picking a bunch of random facts and stats and whatnot about Deion's run in these last 2 years with Shedeur and with Travis. But to me, this is the last thing we should be discussing. We should be discussing instead a program that in 16 years had 2 winning seasons. And you just brought a Heisman Trophy into Boulder, Colorado, at a top 5 pick at quarterback as well, whether it's your son or not. Colorado took a chance on Deion Sanders. I do believe he stays there, and he's created a juggernaut, whether you win or lose this game, TJ. I mean, you read a tweet like this, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they should rename the account Oregon Hater as opposed to Oregon Homer, because, yeah, if there's anything, and as much as, and we'll talk about this again later too, but as much as people want to make, Coach Prime's just about himself and Deion Sanders only cares about his kids or Travis or this, that, and the other, I, again, don't want to play the moral victory game. No Buffs fans want to hear at least they tried hard. It was so telling to me.
Yeah.
for all the people that say he's just about himself or he's just about his kids or this, that, and the other, the fact that those kids were in the game down 30 points or down 26 points, fighting their tails off. Shedeur taking a beating behind an offensive line that was getting dominated. Travis still out there absolutely busting his butt. That long touchdown was incredible. The long reception down the side where they couldn't get. They did end up scoring because Shedeur took the sack. The fight and the effort that they showed kind of proved that all those narratives around, oh, they just care about themselves. No, they cared about Boulder. They cared about the city. They cared about the program. They cared about the team, their teammates. And you had other Heisman-type quarterbacks opting out of second halves of games yesterday. On the same day, you watched what happened in Boulder. You watched the fight that they had. Coach Prime coaching until the last minute. He knew they weren't going to come back and win that game. He knew that it was over with 5, 6, 7 minutes to go. And the intensity, the effort from the players, the coaching, all of that kept going, and it blows a hole in every false narrative that's ever existed around who he is as a person and who this team and this program is.
Well, I think there will be fans out there who are saying, oh, well, these guys wax poetic so much about a Texas Tech, or I say about a Colorado, not a Texas Tech or a TCU. There were schools in the Big 12 that were supposed to win 8 or 9 games this year that won 8 or 9 games. Kansas State's in that boat as well. This is a Colorado story that begins with 3 wins last season, that begins with them struggling to the point where we wondered if Deion Sanders would have long-term success in college football. Would he be a head coach? Can he do it without his kid? And now all that's put to rest. This was a display of leadership that starts with the head coach, of leadership that begins with Deion Sanders and has trickled down to his entire roster, and his son and obviously Travis are a part of that, but I don't believe that it indicts them next season. I'll correct myself, 4 wins last year. It doesn't indict them next season because that leadership's still there as long as Deion Sanders is there. And I've said this, you've said this, I'll continue to say it. I believe Deion Sanders is the head coach in Boulder next season. I don't think that's a question for me right now. And the reason it's tougher to wax poetic about a lot of these Big 12 or even ACC Big 10 teams in that 8 or 9 win range is because they were supposed to be there. They met expectations. Colorado was 4, 5, 6 wins above many people's expectations with this season, and a big part of that was leadership. Deion Sanders showed that whether you're mad about what he said to some CBS reporter in the preseason, he doesn't care. He's very open, he's very honest, and he wins football games. At least that's what he displayed this year in one of the best turnarounds in the country after so many people said in the offseason he couldn't do it.
Yeah, the idea that one bowl game where they didn't play well, and BYU did play extremely well, and a lot of times you play in a game and you suck and the other team doesn't suck, you're going to lose. In one bowl game, he's somehow undone every good thing somehow that happened in Boulder over the last 2 years is just ludicrous, especially in a year where they so far exceeded expectations. If the expectations would have been for Coach Prime to win 11 games and go to the playoff, if they had Utah's expectations and they got blown out in a bowl game where it was a middling bowl game that nobody really wanted to be in, that would be very different in my opinion. The fight, the effort, the love, it's such a cliche, but teams taking on the personality of their coaches. You talk about that leadership trickling down. The best teams are not coach-led. They're player-led, and that does trickle down. Now, Coach Prime has to instill that into other guys now that some of the bigger names are leaving, but that is the testament to what Coach Prime did. It's not and again, I'm playing the moral victory game, that's fine. It's not what happened on Saturday night. You got to look at the season in totality. And this season was a massive success for Coach Prime and the Buffs.
And it's not fun to be wrong, but I was wrong. I said it on your show. I said it on my show. It's 4 months ago now that this could be a really tough year for the Buffs. I predicted a very tough year for the Buffs. They proved me wrong. They proved a lot of people wrong. Foot in mouth for me, eating crow still. And I'll keep saying that because Deion Sanders deserves an apology from a lot of talking heads, myself included. And he proved the world wrong this year. Popping in to tell you today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here. It's not too late to get in on the regular season action, though, with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can finish the season strong. $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways to pick up a W. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score. It is thrilling. Not only can you bet on who will win the game, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score, and so much more. I love Saquon Barkley is going out there and playing. Well, I can just bet on him to score a touchdown, and it pretty much is going to hit most of the time. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. That is FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet hits. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Visit FanDuel and the FanDuel app and do it today.